Well documented through thorough research, these two books focus on important court cases that were caught in the glare of national headlines. Included in these books, you'll find compelling accounts of witchcraft trials that took place in Connecticut, the trials of Prudence Crandall, the Amistad trial, Black Panthers in New Haven courts, the Woodchipper murder case, the legalization of same-sex marriage, the Michael Skakel case, and Michael Ross's Wait on Death Row. The appendix features the actual court rulings in these cases.
Welcome to Law First Publishing Theater. Our guest today is Regina von Gootkin. Regina is the author of two Law First Publishing books, Controversial Court Cases in Connecticut Part I and Controversial Court Cases in Connecticut Part II. Welcome, Regina.
Thanks for having me.
Let me ask you a quick question. Can you give a brief summary of your two books and sort of tell why they're good reading for both lawyers and for the general public?
Sure. The purpose of these two books was to kind of highlight Connecticut's rich history. A lot of people think of Connecticut as a small, sleepy state where not much happens, but these books show in black and white that a lot of interesting things have happened over the years in our state. The first book takes a historical view, looks back at the Connecticut witch trials, at the Amistad slavery case, at the Prudence Crandall School for Black Girls, and reviews Connecticut's history. The second book takes a more modern spin. It looks at some more recent cases, more of a focus on criminal cases. There was the Woodchipper murderer, the Michael Ross serial killer, Michael Skakel murder in Greenwich. So a little more gorier than the first book.
Regina, what source material did you use in writing your books?
I did a lot of research with the Hartford Courant archives. All of these cases were heavily covered in the news, and the Courant has done a great job of preserving all of their articles, so I got a lot of material through there. I also did some first-hand research at the Wethersfield Historical Society on the witch trials. I ended up going to the Prudence Crandall house to actually see the school that she had set up. And then the court cases themselves contained a wealth of information. A lot of background and detail went into the writing of those decisions and opinions.
Well, since these court cases are really controversial, they also set some precedents, not just in this area but for the across the country. Could you comment a little bit about that?
The first book, dealing with the Amistad slavery, that went up all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and it was really instrumental in helping the abolitionist movement to eventually abolish slavery throughout the entire country. And so that certainly set a huge precedent. Also, the Griswold versus Connecticut case was instrumental in further defining the right to privacy, which has come to be recognized in the Fourth Amendment of our Constitution, and was a really important precedent for Roe versus Wade, which really sealed the deal on the right to privacy in America.
Which of your court cases did you find most difficult to write about?
I would have to say that Michael Ross was the most difficult to write about personally. It was the easiest to write about, I think, because there was so much information about it. He had committed 6 horrific, brutal rape murders in Connecticut and 2 previously in New York. It obviously took the authorities a long time to find him. They didn't even realize that they were all connected until he was arrested finally. And just having to go through the details of all of the killings, to take a look at what those families had to go through, and his was a very long process. I think he was arrested in 1986, and it wasn't until 2005 that he was actually put to death, so it spanned a very long period of time.
Regina, if I picked up either one of your books and I started to read them, what surprises might I find?
I think you'd be surprised, the first book, to see the witch trials in Connecticut. Everybody thinks of the Salem witch trials as the quintessential witches, but Connecticut had witches even before Salem did. I think Salem got a little more press and notoriety because they ended up putting to death 29 people, where in Connecticut we didn't put to death quite so many. In the second book, I think one of the most surprising things might be the Woodchipper murderer. That was the first time in the U.S. that there was a murder conviction with no body. So they were able to analyze DNA evidence. Dr. Lee was brought in to show that the 2,500 pieces of hair and fragments of bone and nail and toe were actually the victim, and that's how they were able to convict Richard Crafts.
Regina, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
And thank you for being with us today at Law First Publishing Theater. Good night and good luck.